من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ثم الصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله الغر الميامين وأصحابه الأخيار المغاوير ومن اهتدى بهديه واتبع سنته إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Inshallah, just following on our last Zoom class about the Pentagonals of Islam, the harmony in Islam, and the idea of being a builder in Islam. A Muslim is a builder, and that building has a paradigm that is based on 5 dimensions. That's what we discussed last time. It's still in the same spirit. It's also, we're talking about 5 things today. These are the 5 things that determines our success in this world and the next world, or our failure in this world and the next world. And God mentioned these 5 things in Surah 2, Al-Hadid, the chapter of the iron. And it is in a form of a dialogue between the people who enter the garden and the people who remain outside of the garden. And the background is the day of judgment, and whereby there is a very thick, heavy darkness that engulfs the creation. And when this darkness sets in, there's no sun, there's no moon, there's no physical lights as we are used to. Then, of course, everybody panics, and they don't know where to go, where to turn. And in that stampede, in that rush, the believers who had prepared themselves very well, there's a light that comes out of them. A light their light becomes manifested. And so when that happens, those who did not prepare themselves for that day, those who did not polish and oil their lamp, which is their heart, with the oil of Imam, of faith, and just like the lamp that's mentioned by Allah in what we call Ayatul Nur, the verse of light. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. Mathalu nurihi kamishkatin fiha misbah. The likeness of his light in the heart of his believing servant is like a lamp in a niche. So that is the lamp we are talking about. So that lamp is in your heart. It needs to be polished. It needs to be polished. Tazkiyatun nafs, we call it. So polishing the nafs, purifying the nafs, polishing the mirror of your heart, and keeping it oiled constantly. When the moment comes, it just light comes up. So that what happens. So those who were not sincere in their religion, they did not take their religion seriously. They did not work for it. They didn't work hard in preparation for that time. They are at loss. They have no light. So now, as you can see now, we have 2 groups of people, one with light, one without light. And those who are, of course, with a light, they immediately they see a path, and they follow that path that leads to them into a garden. a garden that is, of course, is walled around, and it has a door in it. But those who have no light are stuck. They could not go. They can't move. Just like God described in Surah Al-Baqarah, كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا. Whenever they see some brightness, they move. Whenever it becomes dark, they stand still because they have no light to continue walking. So when those who have a light make their way into the garden, and of course the garden has a door. A door means what? It allows some people to come in and allows some people not to come in. So that's what a door is always about. Something that has no door definitely means that anything can come in. And that includes your heart. Your heart has half a door that you don't allow everything to come in, and you don't allow what is in also to go out. And the same thing, your stomach, your body. You don't just allow everything has to have a door. So don't allow everything to come into your body, and so forth. So فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ لَهُ بَابٌ. Allah says a fence, a wall is raised up between them. This wall has a door. لَهُ بَابٌ بَاطِنُهُ فِيهِ الرَّحْمَةِ. Within the garden, within the fence, there is nothing but the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَظَاهِرُهُ مِنْ قِبَلِهِ الْأَذَابِ. But outside of this fence, there's nothing but tribulation and torment. Tribulation and torment. So when this happened now, those who are left outside are calling on those who have made their way inside. يُنَادُونَهُمْ. First of all, they ask them first, انظرونا نقتبس من نوركم. Let us take from your light. That was before the wall came up between them. Let us take from your light. And they are told by someone, by a voice, ارجعوا وراءكم فالتمسوا نورا. If you want a light, go back and seek a light. I mean, seeking the light is not the place for that. Before you come here, you get your light ready. This is the time for rewarding and not for working. Exam is over. It is time to get your marks. So go back, meaning that go back to dunya if you can. But because they are so desperate, they even believe that they could go back. So that's when the two groups are separated. When those who have no light rush back in the hope of getting a light, then a wall comes up between the two sides. So when that happens, and now they call on those who are inside the garden, within the wall, and they said to them that, Alam nakum ma'akum, were we not with you? Because they knew one another in this world. They used to go to school together, or they go to the mosque together, or they go to the burial together, or they go to drink coffee together, or they go to naming ceremony, aqiqas together. So they used to mingle in this world and associate. But there are those who are serious with their deen. They always were conscious of their heart. They always were conscious of the day of judgment coming. So they were preparing themselves. And the other ones, even though they were all together, were idle. They did not pay any attention to what may come after this life. So therefore now they are surprised why they are outside the wall and those are inside the wall. So when that happens, they call on them, Alam nakum ma'akum, were we not with you? Qalu bala, they said yes. We were together, we were in company together. Qalu bala. But they tell them there are 5 things that have obstructed you, have prevented you from entering today. 5 things. Walakinnakum, first one. Again, Islam is based on 5. We have to come back to the same harmony, the four corners and the central pillar. So they said to them that you have, yes, we are together, but there are, because of 5 things, you have failed to come inside this garden. First one, وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. But you have brought tribulation upon yourself. They call fitna to an-nafs. Fitna and-nafs. This is the first obstacle. To bring tribulation upon yourself, upon your nafs. And what that means, how does one tribulate your nafs, your own soul? How do you bring trouble to your own soul? There are examples in the Quran al-Karim, but it means that to bring a burden upon yourself that you can bear, other than the one that God has put on you. Whatever God puts on you, that's certainly something you can bear, because God knows you, He created you, so He knows how much weight you can carry, your heart, your soul can carry. What is the capacity of your soul? It is strength. So God knows all this. So He puts things, the weight that He puts on you is always in measure of your strength, never more than your strength. That's why He said, "La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha." God puts no burden on a soul that it can bear, so more than its capacity. But if you contrive yourself, you create problems, things, you take on responsibilities, risks, and so forth upon yourself. That is it, that God did not put on you. Then that's called fitna to nafs. There are many hadiths, as we know, but Prophet ﷺ was a mercy for humankind and was very merciful to his Sahabas. Each time he see them tending towards putting too much upon themselves, he will advise them against it, so that they do not come to a point where their nafs is in tribulation. Like the story of Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, his companion, who was fasting every day, was finishing Quran every night, and this is a burden on the soul in the long run. You may be able to do it now. You're young. As you grow older, you cannot do it, and yes, you have to do it. So when his father complained to Prophet ﷺ, and he came and spoke to him, he said, "That is too much. Try to finish it once a month, and try to fast just the 3 days, what they call the white nights, and maybe every Monday and Thursday and so forth." So he advised him, just to make it, because we don't have that much time, just to make it an example, and he pushed him to bring it down. And so that is an example of don't bring a fitna upon yourself that you can bear. And the example also in the Quran, in the same Surah Al-Hadid, is the examples of the monastery system. That also is a burden they place on themselves. God said, "Ma katabnaha alayhim, ibtada'uha, ma katabna." They invented this practice of monastery, whereby you cut off yourself from your natural needs, which is in particular having a family and a marriage, and sort of marry yourself to your mission, and this, of course, is a burden that the nafs can bear naturally. This is a natural instinct that the human being has to be married, to have children, and so forth and so forth. If you deprive yourself of that, you'll have some tribulation bringing upon yourself. As an example, also, and that's why they failed. What is said, وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. Most of them became renegades. They turned completely away. So the worst part of this situation is that even though they invented monastic system to get close to God, it brought them farther away from God. Yeah. Had they just content themselves with just basic prayers, you do your 5 daily prayers, you do your Ramadan every year, you do your zakat once a year. When you can go for Hajj, you go for Hajj. And this, just copy this basic, there's no burden on your nerves because God measured this to the average human being's capacity. If you can do something on top of this, it's fine. But don't take on a load that you can bear, and eventually that's going to push you away from God. Because now once you have taken something, a burden that your nerves can bear, it makes you forget God. And that's the biggest fitna. Biggest fitna is to forget God. Allah said in Surah Al-Munafiqeen, لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله, or you who believe, don't let your wealth and your children distract you from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet God says that children and wealth are a fitna. إنما أموالكم وأولادكم فتنة. Why are they fitna? Because they make you forget God. Anything that makes you forget the remembrance of God, that is a fitna. But having children and wealth is a necessity as long as you do with them what God pleases. So that won't be called fitna to nafs. So that's just a small example. And one more example on that is there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, لا ينبغي للمؤمن أن يذل نفسه. A believer has no right to humiliate yourself. قالوا وما إذلاله نفسه يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. They said to him that, what does that constitute? A believer bringing humiliation upon yourself. قال يتعرض للبلاء ما لا يثبت له. He said, you put yourself in the way of trials that you can bear. If you know you cannot take a challenge, don't take it. If you know you cannot undertake an enterprise, don't take an engagement. Whatever you know you can do, don't take a responsibility for it. So that's the first one. Those who do that, they will not succeed in this life, and they will not succeed in the hereafter. That's one. فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Second one, وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ. التربص. In English, it's called procrastination. Procrastination. You procrastinated. It's to put things off every time. You want something that you need to do now, he said, I'll do it later. Later comes, I'll do it later. Later comes, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, I'll do it tomorrow. It never gets done. That's a sign of somebody who, if he has Iman, he doesn't have sidq, truthfulness in them. They don't have courage. Because al-shaja'a is an aspect of Iman. Being brave and courageous comes from Iman. A mu'min is courageous. He doesn't get daunted by obstacles. He charges forward. Allah said, charge at the obstacle, at the obstruction. Charge through it. Charge through your fear. But fear keeps you back and causes you to procrastinate. So that is also, those who procrastinate, we all see that in this life, they do not succeed. There's an element of risk in everything that we do. Even the food that you put in your mouth, you take a risk because you don't know whether that food will be stuck in your throat and choke you. But you just believe God. That believe and gives you courage. So tarabastum, you procrastinated. And how many times you said to yourself, tomorrow I'm going to make my tawbah to Allah. I'm going to stop all this lifestyle is not good for me. I'm going to turn myself my entire being to God and prepare myself for meeting him, which you're going to meet him. But tomorrow comes, your resolve is weakened again. Then you put it forward, and then until you die. وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ حَتَّى أَتَانَا الْيَقِينُ. So that also is an obstacle to success in this life and the hereafter. The third one, وَارْتَبْتُمْ. So the tarabbus is against Iman. وَارْتَبْتُمْ, and you had doubt. You doubted, being skeptical. Two kinds. There's a negative doubt and a positive doubt. To be inquisitive, to know this is good. But to question everything, even the most obvious truth, is skepticism. That's not good. No, just really, there's any life in after this life? What's the proof of that? People go and they never come back. So the day of judgment, we don't know whether there be judgment. This world will not end. It has been always here. It's going to always be there. So the world coming to an end is doubtful, to be skeptical. So you question even the most fundamental tenets of faith. So even in this life, people who are so skeptical, they can't make a decision. They keep on arguing and arguing and debating until the good moment passes away. So وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ وَارْتَبْتُمْ. You can see that. They go hand in hand. تَرَبَّصْتُمْ وَارْتَبْتُمْ. You doubted. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ إِنَّ السَّاعَةَ حَقٌّ. When I told them that the hour is true, is going to come. قالوا ما أدري ما الساعة إن نظن إلا ظن وما نحن بمستيقنين. What do we know about the hour? It's just a thought. It's just a speculation. We have no certainty about it. So that also is a serious obstacle towards success in this life and in the hereafter. وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِي. So we are exactly repeating what the people of Jannah says to the people outside of it. Exactly. So as Quran said it, you will be one day saying this, inshallah, all of you who are watching now. One day, I hope, inshallah, one day all of you will be saying, inshallah, this to people who are on the outside the wall. One day. You will tell them that. But you only tell them now, if you make a change, if you get rid of these obstacles now and prepare yourself. So وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِيُّ حَتَّى جَاءَهُ اللَّهُ. You were deluded by false hopes. The difference between a true hope and a false hope is that when your hope is true, it is supported by action. You hope and you act. That's the true hope. If you hope that you're going to get Jannah, then you act the acts of people of Jannah. Amal Ahl Jannah. There's a way that they act. If you act the way they act, then your hope is true, and God will fulfill your hope for you. If you hope to enter Jannah and you don't act the action of the people of Jannah, then your hope is false. Well, al-amani. Al-amani. ليس بأمانيكم ولا أماني أهل الكتاب من يعمل سوءا يجزى به. Allah said, it is not according to your wishful thinking or the wishful thinking of the people of the book. If you do anything wrong, you will be rewarded for it. Anything wrong. So don't have no fantasy in your head that I can do something, I can do wrong, and I'll be rewarded with good. No. وجزاء سيئة سيئة مثلها وهل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. What is the reward for kindness except kindness, for goodness or goodness, and the reward for evil is evil, equal under it. So don't have any delusion about it. Be realistic, pragmatic, open-minded. Know that if you sow a corn, you will reap a corn. If you sow a thorn, you will reap a thorn. So stop there dreaming. If you want Jannah, you want the company of the Prophet ﷺ and the messengers and the Siddiqeen and the Salihin, then act. Work hard for it. It doesn't mean that your work qualifies you for it, but your work shows Allah that you are sincere, that you truly mean. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it happen for you. So false hopes. Those who are daydreamers, those who fantasize, those who are self-delusive, those who are wishful thinkers, they don't succeed, even here in this world, let alone in the hereafter, which is the word of truth. So, غرضكم الأماني. You kept on entertaining yourself with empty hopes until the command of Allah came, until certainty came, until death came to you. What do you call حتى جاء أمر الله, until Allah's command came. That's fourth. And the fifth one, وَغَرَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورِ. And the deluder, the tempter, which is shaitan, tempted you, deluded you, fooled you about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَغَرَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورِ. How did he do that? He does it in two ways. وَغَرَّكَ بِاللَّهِ. He made you dare Allah by downplaying the magnitude, the magnificence of God, the station of God to your mind, by downplaying it. So Allah said in Surah Al-Inshiqaq, يا أيها الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم الذي خلقك فسواك فعدلك في أي صورة ما شاء ركبك. In Surah Al-Infitar. O human being, what made you dare your Lord? ما غرك بربك الكريم. The most generous Lord, Al-Karam. If somebody is honorable to you, you should not belittle them. You should not turn their karam, mistreat their karam as something unimportant. If somebody gives you karam, that karam should make them big in your heart. Respect them, honor them as they have honored you. And Allah has honored us. The least that we should return the honor for honor. Allah said, we have honored the children of Adam. But why do you dare your Lord, who has been kind, honorable to you? ما غرك بربك الكريم. That's what Allah said. ربك الكريم. And among his karam to you, الذي خلقك, he created you. From nothing, he brought you into being. What more karam can you expect? Is such a one who has done this for you not deserving of all types of karam from you? Khalaqaka fasawak. He made you proportionate. If you look at the human being, you know that the one who has made this creature is indeed a kareem. How a human body is so harmonious. Your hands, your shoulders, your leg, everything is symmetrical. And they work. You can describe it. And fasawak, fa'adalak. He gave you an erect posture. Allah doesn't have to. Allah could have created us and cast us on our face like goats and sheep and donkeys and so forth and so forth. They walk face down. We walk head up. فَعَدَلَكَ يَا إِنسَانِ مَا غَرَّكَ. Is that karam for you? That's the summit of karam. فَعَدَلَكَ. That's why they said human being surah is the best form, shape created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All is رَبُّكَ الْكَرِيمِ لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ فَعَدَلَكَ فِي أَيِّ سُورَةٍ مَا شَاءَ رَكَّبَكَ. And he continue to cast you into any shape and form. Now, مَا غَرَّكَ. That being the case, that Lord is indeed a Kareem, and the reward of a Kareem is Karam. So human being, worship him alone and make no partners with him. Human being, do not offend him and transgress his boundaries. That's what it means that. Magharak. After all this, you disobey him. Because Shaitan told you that he is very forgiving. And you took advantage of his karam to disobey him. You took advantage of his clemency to disobey him. You took advantage of his generosity and kindness to offend him. Is that how you are? Is that honorable to you, do you think? Somebody who does all this for you? La. That's why Sayyidina Yusuf, when the wife of Aziz called him to cheat her husband, he said, Innahu Rabbi ahsana maswaya. No, I can't do this. He was my Lord, and he's been very kind to me. Very kind. Look at that. Whoever has been kind to you, you should not cheat them. You should not betray them. You should not downplay their kindness. Inshallah ta'ala, this is the gist of it, of the 5 obstacles. I'll come back inshallah after prayer and continue with you. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لنفسي ولكم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Tahir.
Alhamdulillah. Brother Wasim.
Assalamu alaikum.
Brother Wasim is here, mashallah. I just a quick intro. I'm sure most of you know Brother Wasim. Brother Wasim is, as you know, he was doing a PhD at Princeton University in Islamic Studies. And I was searching to spend some time internship with a scholar in Quran. And alhamdulillah, he found Imam Fode. So he moved to Vancouver for a year or two internship to work with Imam Fode one-to-one, inshallah, to know the depth of Quran, mashallah. So I thought maybe it's best that to have him for these 10 minutes while Imam Fode is doing his Maghrib Salah. So we request Imam, my brother Wasim, to share with us his time, Imam Fode, and what he's been learning. especially with reference to the Quran, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, I mean, I think just to, put it briefly, I think my experience has been very much what I'm sure many of you are experiencing today, which is, seeing the Quran with a lot more perspective and depth than you were previously seeing it. And this is something that I'm sure many of Imam Fode's students, many of whom are on the call, can attest to. That you know um, without exaggerating, you could probably say that, like, we can take the Quran as seriously, or you know yeah, I guess you could say it like that. Like, we can take the Quran as seriously before we met Imam Fode, primarily because he's somebody who makes the Quran as the centerpiece of Islam as a whole. And we have so many people who obviously say that, and that's something that we all as Muslims say, but it's becoming increasingly rare, or you could say that it's very uncommon to find people who are just so in tune with the messages of the Quran that they're able to pull out these very comprehensive meanings and really deep messages that for some of us, you might have been reading these same ayahs, you know and we just take it for granted, like, they're okay. This ayah that he's talking about from Surah al-Hadid, just one ayah, and he's able to extract all of these different meanings and all of these life lessons from it. I mean, how many of us before that may have even heard a lecture, or read it ourselves, or but just passed over it. So I'd say in a nutshell, that's the main benefit of my own study with Imam Fode, and having the ability to really just take the time. And I think it's important for all of us to take the time to try and learn how to better interact with the Quran, with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, the more and more I sit with Imam Fode's lectures, the more and more that I take his classes, the more and more, my own experience of reading the Quran, and encountering the Quran, because even if it's just my own, whether it's my own reading, or I hear it somewhere else, or I listen to a khutbah or a speech, and then I hear some verses of the Quran. Now it's gone to the point where I'm not just letting it pass as like, okay, well, this is a nice ayah, but to actually think of, like, okay, well, Allah is mentioning, like, for example, here Allah is mentioning 5 things. Well, Imam Fode, talks about, like, Allah builds things in this, pentagonal structure. So maybe there are some correlations between, like, say, these 5 things and the 5 pillars of Islam. And what does that mean? And how is this? So, these are the sorts of lessons that, that come up. Um, and one thing I wanted to sort of mention with regards to that, and I'll actually share my screen here, is, um, you know, the the saying higher education classes, which I think we mentioned last time as well. Um, they really, bring into light these teachings, and it's a way for all of us who are, again, unable to travel to Vancouver because of the various because of various restrictions and because of COVID. Um, this is an opportunity for all of us to, keep going in depth with these teachings. And of course, the first level of the Quran, or Quran level 1, the introduction to the study of the Quran. These are all classes that you can sign up with through this website here, qheonline.com. And, you can take these classes, you can, you can buy the textbook. They have the Quran Level 1 textbook here. It's available on Amazon.com. And that's a way for us to keep going deeper with the Quran and to benefit from these studies. And, you can go through the website on your own, but you can see that it just keeps building, through these various levels. And we're up to level 5 now, inshallah, starting level 6 soon. Another way to, improve your relationship with Imam Fode's teachings is, to visit the Zawiya website where there are more announcements of, the various, events that are happening. There's also the Facebook page where you can, again, you can, they'll live stream a lot of his lectures. For example, today's Friday talk, the talks that Imam gives during Shumma here, as well as various other things that they live stream. There's also a YouTube page which has a lot of different lectures from over the years, and especially the classes. And every once in a while, Imam will have a class around a specific theme. We had the first one earlier this year, which was on the 7 words of God, or actually later last year. Which again, this is a great way to, if you haven't listened to these lectures, this is a great way to interact with this, um, to really get a more exposure into, a more in-depth exposure to Imam's teachings. And then there's also the Messina publications where Imam has so many different books. These are, some of them, in both Arabic and English. And these are, again, like Imam's books are very, very much treasures from which you can really, as one person put it to me, they're not typically written the way you would, just pick up a book and read it, but they're written in this very reflective manner, such that it's, really allows all of us to, sit with the meanings and keep going back to them and keep deepening our, relationship with, with the Quran. Um, so, that in a nutshell has been my experience with, with studying with Imam. I mean, I could go on and on about all the, the various gems that you pick up over time. But I think the biggest thing that, and I think this is the thing that Imam stresses for all his students, is that it has helped really kickstart my own, journey with the Quran in terms of, even as somebody who's studied, Islam through other means, whether it's through textbooks, whether it's through different madrasa type curriculums, in the books that they teach there, or through lectures, or through sitting with scholars. um, a lot of the time there's a sense in which even when you go through all of that, the Quran sort of remains um, a bit distant, and it remains something that seems almost inaccessible, even though that you're talking about Islam a lot, and you're talking about um, following the Sunnah and following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'd say the one major blessing of Imam Fode's teachings is that it really enriches and really makes deep that sort of that that interaction, that relationship, that personal relationship with the Quran, and extension, of course, with Allah, such that as your relationship with the Quran improves, of course, by extension, your relationship with Allah improves as well. Um, and as we're also waiting for Imam to finish up praying, I also want to remind everybody that, like with last time, as with previous times, for those who are new, we will have a Q&A section that will start, inshallah, as soon as Imam is back. And so, I would encourage everybody to take some time to think of questions, and you can either ask the questions in the Q&A, the Q&A option, that chat, or you could raise your hand, and then we'll call on you, and then you can ask Imam directly, inshallah. So you'll definitely take, a little bit of time as I'm, sort of talking here and, just giving some general information. That might be even a better use of your time to really reflect on, what Imam, has been talking about. And, um, as we're talking about that, just to review a little bit of what Imam had been mentioning, I pulled up, this is the ayah that he was referring from Surah Al-Hadid. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ينادونهم ألم نكن معكم قالوا بلى ولكنكم فتنتم أنفسكم وتربصتم وارتبتم وغرتكم الأماني حتى جاء أمر الله وغركم بالله غرور. So these were the 5 things that Imam had highlighted And of course, you might see these translated in different ways. Um, but the five that he had mentioned were, the first one is here, fatantum, fitnatun nafs, you've brought tribulation upon yourself. That's the first one. Fatantum anfusakum. Then the second one he mentioned is this next word, watarabastum, which he translated as you procrastinated or you kept putting things off. Wartabtum, and you doubted. So that's the next word. Being skeptical. Waharatkum al amani, you were deluded by false hopes. Waharatkum al amani. Hatta ja'a amrullah, you were deluded by false hopes until until Allah's command came. And then, of course, it ends with the fifth point, which is waharakum billahi gharur, and the deluder or the deceiver deluded you. So these were, again, like, just to go back. It's all coming from this one small ayah from Surah Al Hadid, which is this verse 57:14. So in the Arabic, it's fatantum anfusakum. That's number one. Watarabastum, that's the second one. Wartabtum, that's the third one. Waharatkum al amani, and then the fifth one was waharakum billahi horor. So inshallah, that's something I'll leave the ayah up for those who would like to jot it down and who would like to, sort of get these 5 points down. Because again, like, I think this is, again, another one of these priceless teachings that inshallah will be very important for all of us as we move forward.
Jazakallah khair. Yeah, I think one thing I have noticed that while you're listening to Imam's lecture, unless you make notes and go back to them, so you have to reinforce. Otherwise, just listening and and then getting back to other things, it'd be, so you really have to open up and make some notes and go back to. Inshallah, we'll also have a recording of this message. You can always go back and listen to them a few times to really internalize this message. And it's beautiful the way he explains the ayah of Quran.
Yeah, mashallah. And again, like, it's one of those things, as I mentioned before, it's like all of these topics also build upon each other. And I hope that some of you, and again, I learn a lot from the questions that you ask, so I definitely do encourage everybody to be thinking about thinking about this ayah, thinking about the different points that Imam is making. But one thing that, again, I always get is that these teachings, they always build on each other, and there are connections that you'll find. So for those who remember the last talk that Imam gave a month ago, he was talking also about this idea of the pentagonal shape, right? And he brought a lot of, in that talk, he brought a lot of different ideas. He brought up the hadith of how the child is formed in the womb of a mother, and there are these different phases, and he mentioned these 4 different faculties. And some of you who are Imam students, or some of you who have taken these classes before, have probably heard a lot of these. They're the faculties of dhikr, of remembrance, of fikr, of reflection, of nazar, of observation, and then of basar, which is to see something, which is to really see something. And that's something to also think about. It's like, okay, he was describing this 5-point structure before in that talk, and now he's describing another 5-point structure here. So one question that many of you might be thinking, and I hope that Imam might address, is how do these different types of issues, these obstacles, maybe how do they relate to the 5 pillars? How do they relate to these different faculties that he was speaking about? How do they relate? I think he also mentioned the different, characters that show up in the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So, we'll see that like the more and more you study with Imam, the more and more of these connections come up. So inshallah with that, I see that Imam is coming back onto screen. So, I'll leave it there. And also, as they're setting up, again, I just want to reiterate, maybe take a second to think of questions. And like last time, you can either ask them in the Q&A, or you can raise your hands, and inshallah we'll give you the ability to ask the questions directly, inshallah.
I think Imam is muted. I see Imam is muted. Brother Rahman, can you unmute Imam?
I'll take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
They're very nice, very single mom.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, Bismillah. Inshallah, so we are left with the fifth obstacle, which was al-ghurur shaitan or taghrir shaitan. That shaitan delude you about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the one hand, we just spoke about that. He deceives you about Allah's karam. الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم الذي خلقك فسواك فعدلك في أي صورة ما شاء وركبك. So we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning his karam upon us by giving us this gracious form, the form of a human being. And so that's one aspect of the deception. So once he downplay the one side of God, he overplays the side of forgiveness and so forth, and downplays the other side, which is the side of his magnificence, his authority, and of course his justice as well. Then he pushes you to offend. Once you have offended and you feel sorry now, because once you offend, then truth comes clear to you that I made a mistake, I've done something wrong. Now it deceives you a second time. When you know that you have fallen and you want to rise up and go back to your God and ask for forgiveness, then he blocks you from coming back to God. How? He now overplays sort of Allah's justice, overplays Allah's grandiosity. So it's in such a way that you get scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You lose hope in his forgiveness. So on the one hand, as we said, he encourages you to transgress Allah's boundaries by downplaying Allah's maqam to you. On the other hand, he overplays that maqam and downplays Allah's karam and his fadl and his forgiveness. So because of this, he blocks you from ever coming back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever, do not in any way disregard Allah's karam for you that he has given to you. But if by mistake, human being is bound to make a mistake, if by mistake you do stumble and you fall, don't despair of coming back. No matter what it is, come back. His karam is much greater than your sin. His forgiveness is much larger than your mistakes. Inna rabbakum dhu rahmati wasi'a, wallahu wasi'ul maghfirah. Allah's rahmah is wide, is expansive. His maghfirah as well, the same thing. So your sin will not be able to encompass Allah's maghfirah and his rahmah. So come back. Do not transgress counting on Allah's forgiveness and mercy and downplaying the karam that he has given you. If you make a mistake, you forgot, he made a mistake. Human being is bound to forget. So once you forget, you make a mistake, because you can only disobey Allah if you are a believer. When you forget, a believer will not disobey Allah while in remembrance. Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "La yazni zani hina yazni wa huwa mu'minun," that one will not commit adultery, and you are a believer while committing it. That means that you stop remembering Allah, your faith stops, you commit the sin, and then after that, everything comes back to you. So this, in a nutshell, are the 5 obstacles I want to discuss with you today. And inshallah, I'll wait for your questions. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khairah.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, Imam. Inshallah, again, as we had mentioned, you can type your questions into the chat, or you can raise your hands, and inshallah, I'll unmute you, and then you can ask your question that way. So inshallah, the first question, Imam, is, can trials that we place on ourselves that Allah did not place on us, can they be forgiven, and can they also be a means of purification?
Yes, they can be forgiven, but the first thing is that we should, by first, relinquishing them, by letting go of them. That's the first thing. Once you let go of those uncalled for burden that you put on yourself, let's say, I give an example very often, that God has provided you with a nice, comfortable income. You have a nice job that gives you a very good income, that allows you and your family to live very well. But out of greed, and human beings want to have more and more, you think that you should make some more income, a side income. And what do? Then you go and take a second job. And now, your time for your family is cut down. Your time for your worship is cut down. And this is a fitna, of course, but you bring it onto your nafs. Because now you're going to more and more forget God, and more forget yourself. And that's why the problem. So if you let go of that, whatever was that extra thing that you put on yourself, let go of that and engage in self-purification and remembrance of Allah, and inshallah everything will go back to normal.
Inshallah. And related to that, someone is asking, what should one do to have Allah save them from self-imposed fitna and procrastination? Is sincere repentance and consistent action okay? And how about the dua of Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana min ladunka rahma innaka antal wahhab?
Yeah, that is perfectly right. That's perfectly correct. That will sincere tawbah, which that statement is a statement of tawbah, and also the dua of Sayyidina Yunus is also appropriate, and the dua of Sayyidina Adam, because they are all said in the same kind of context. They put their burden on themselves that they could not bear. Yeah.
MashaAllah. And also, again, a reminder, if people want to ask their questions through the audio just directly, just raise your hands. Another question, Imam, somebody's asking if you could comment on the order of these, and why are they mentioned in this order? And especially why the fifth one seems to come all the way at the end, and after saying, after Allah's command comes.
Yeah, well, the command here, of course, is sort of yaqeen, and there's an echo of this ayah. As you know, we spoke about the Quran works in pairs as a binary system. That you see any ayah somewhere, it most likely will have a pair somewhere. So this ayah in Hadith has a pair in Surah Al-Mudassir, which is exactly, but this time it's also in the same similar context. We have a dialogue going on between people of Jannah and people who are left in the tribulation. And so those in Jannah are questioning them. In Hadith, it was the people who are in tribulation who asking the questions to the people in the garden. In this case, the people in the garden asking the question, the people in tribulation. So they said, "Ma salakakum fi saqar?" What brought you to the fire of Saqar? Saqar, one of the levels of Jahannam is called Saqar. What brought you to Saqar? What made you enter Saqar? Now they are telling them why. قالوا لم نكن من المصلين. We were not people who used to perform their prayers, establish their prayer. ولم نكن نطعم المسكين. We were not used to feed the needy and the hungry. وكنا نخوض مع الخائضين. And we used to just go along with the flow. Go along with the flow. كنا نخوض مع الخائضين. وكنا نكذب بيوم الدين. And we used to belie the day of requital, the day of judgment. We never used to believe it to be true. So you see exactly the same thing that these people have said there before. حتى أتانا اليقين, until yaqeen came to us. Until certainty came to us. And what is that? Is death. Until yaqeen came to you, until death came to you. So before death comes to you, it's saying to change these 4 points, change them. And they all end up, because the 4 that is mentioned before yaqeen, those 4 sort of all put together leads to the last one, which is the 5th one that comes after the commandment of God.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. Next question, Imam, is somebody is saying that they heard it's good to read the Quran late at night. If you could comment upon that.
I didn't hear the question. What was it?
Whether good times to read the Quran, and they're saying they heard it's good to read the Quran late at night.
Yes, I mean, God talks about Quran and the night. Well, one Quran was revealed in the night. That's to begin with. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. And that's one. And also God talks about the impact of reciting Quran at night. Inna nashi'at al-layl hiya ashaddu wat'an wa aqwam qila in surah al-Muzammil. What is the nashi'at al-layl? There are mufassirin have many variations of meaning. Standing up at nights and pray with the Quran. Ashaddu wat'an has more impact, wa aqwam qila, and is more conducive that your word is upright. So when you read the Quran at night, your entire state of being helps you to recite very well and upright. So, and also the famous also in Surah Al-Isra, in the Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda. The Quran al-Fajr, in the Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda, and the Quran of Fajr time, because the Quran of Fajr time is always attended by hosts of angels. So the Quran here, they said is Salah, meaning that prayer of Fajr, but prayer of Fajr is prayer because Quran is recited in it. So that's what it's saying. In the Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda. So that mashhuda makes it very special. It's attended by angels. That's also a story of a Sahabi, Sabit, who one day was reciting Quran, I think between Fajr and sunrise. So early in the morning. And while his small child was sitting at the door, and there's a hose tied to also in front of the door, and he noticed that the hose began to tug at the rope. It was moving, and when he stopped reading, then the hose stops moving, and when he started reading again, he started to move again, and so he said, "Let me, because the child is there, he might hurt the child. Let me go and find out what's going on with what's wrong with the hose." When he came, then as somebody told him, look up. He looked up and he could see a cloud. And in the cloud, there are lamps. And the cloud began to ascend until it disappeared. So that morning, when he came to visit the Prophet ﷺ, he told him his experience, or he said, perhaps you were reciting the end of Baqarah. He said, exactly, O Messenger of Allah, Allah bless you and have mercy on you. I was exactly reciting that part of the Quran. He said, yes, that was Sakina that came down due to your recitation. Allah sent down Sakina. Quran is not a small thing. When you recite the Quran, that's what happens. Sakina comes down. You may not see it. That is if you are reciting it and with the proper adab, which inshallah we don't have time for that to discuss that. But yeah, inshallah, all this has to do, of course, with the context of the night.
Inshallah. And somebody is also asking as a follow-up, can the recitation also include the study of the Quran at that time? Could that be considered as part of one's Qiyam al-Layl?
Yes, anything that is centered directly on the Quran will be counted as such. Yes.
I think we have. Okay, Brother Zach, you wanted to ask a question? Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
Walaikum assalam.
I have a question that may not be directly related, but the story that you described for the Day of Judgment, will it be in physical form? Some scholars say that it may not necessarily be physical. It may be a metaphor. It may be in some other form, maybe just soul or some other dimension. It does not necessarily have to be in the three-dimensional physical form that we exist on Earth at this point in time. So what is your view? I know some scholars have said, no, it is just metaphorical, that it will be in the form of souls up there, while Al-Ghazali said that, no, it will be physical plus the soul. So what is your view on that?
Yes, I know that there's that debate, but my view is that it is body and soul, because judgment, the body and soul live together and they work together in this world, and so whatever reward they earn, they will enjoy it together. Whatever punishment they earn, they'll have to also bear it together. It can only just be the body and not the spirit, or the spirit and not the body. That doesn't seem to align up with the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, that brings us to the question of when the trumpet is blown, God says that everything in the heavens and the earth dies. And when it's blown again, then they come back to life. So Abu Huraira has a hadith about ما بين النفختين أربعون, that I had the Messenger of Allah say that between the two blows of the trumpet, there is a period of 40. So they asked him 40 days. He said, or 40 years. He said, I won't tell you that. They said, then 40 months. He said, I will not tell you. They said, 40 days. He said, I will not tell you. Abait. He said, then after 40 days, a rain comes down from above. And from this rain, you're going to grow again the way, a potato, anything that grows in the soil and pushes out, the way they grow, that's kama yamutul baqla. So he said, kullu bani adam yabla, that everything in the human being decays and decomposes. Let me talk about a human being. So why we bury human beings? We don't bury them because we are discarding them. We bury them, we are planting them. So we are processing them. Because they're going to grow again. Because in the human body, there is one small, tiny, invisible bone. This bone cannot be destroyed no matter if you burn the body, whatever you do, that will never be destroyed. And from that bone, it's a seed, it's like a seed. then from that you grow again. So your body grows again. So apart from the prophets, the messengers, and some high-level saints whose body are preserved. So they are raised again with the same body they live with. But the majority of the believers, this body decays and a new body is formed from that seed. So when human beings grow, they call it also az-zuraya or al-asas. So this tiny seed is in your body. That's why we bury you in the soil so that you can sprout again. So when the bodies now grow again in the earth, in the womb, now in the womb of the earth, the way you seed, the way the male put the seed in the female, and the seed grows. But the seed, it grows this time in the belly of the earth. And when the body is formed, so the earth has these billions of seeds inside it. And at some point, the earth hatches out. They are hatched out. They are thrown up from the belly of the earth. And when that happens, then the arwah, the spirits from the barzakh comes down straight. Each spirit goes back to the body it had left. So this is how the scenario. And after this, when that happens, when the arwah goes back into the ajsad, into the bodies, and the umbilical cord that is between the body and the earth breaks up. As soon as the ruh comes in, the umbilical cord cuts up. And everybody stands up right away. It's not like the way the baby grows and starts to walk. Everybody walks right away. And when they stand up right away, of course, غرلا uratan حفاة غرلا, they are barefooted, bare-bodied, and of course uncircumcised. The way their mothers had given them birth the first time. So they all rush now to the judgment scene. And that's when all this takes place that I mentioned today. So definitely it's body and soul. There's no question about that.
Jazakallah. Thanks.
Okay.
MashaAllah. Next question, Imam, is how do we know if our striving is too excessive such that we're overburdening ourselves?
Human being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that human being knows himself more than anyone else. And you know what your capacity is. If you free your mind from conceit and self-aggrandizement, because in that way your judgment will be clouded. But if you are free from that, you definitely will know. You're not proud, you're not conceited. You will know what you can. If they give you a responsibility, then you know this is going to take up too much of my time, that I will not have time for my basic duties, then don't take it. Don't say, no, I think I'm strong, I can do it. If you know you can do it, and it will not affect your duties, your fundamental duties. You do this to your family, you do this to yourself, you do this to your soul, you do this to your creator, then it's fine. If it is going to impact that negatively, then you should consider.
And a related question, Imam, somebody's asking, you mentioned to not take a mission you cannot handle, but also that with Iman, we should charge through our fears. Can you comment on how these both work in our quest to purify ourselves?
Okay. Yes, Iman, those help us build our courage and be able to take further steps forward. But that also is a gradual process. There's a difference between courage and recklessness. So there are two different things. That recklessness doesn't stem from Iman. But courage that is based on sound judgment. And that's why God said that before you undertake anything, you study it, you investigate it, you look into it. And once you've done your duty, that's what we call tie your camel, and then make tawakkul. It's the concept. So the time you have to do that. That's still part of Iman. It's part of Iman to tie your camel. And then once you tie your camel, don't worry now. You just move ahead. Yeah.
Inshallah. And another question is, if you're preparing for the end of life, what you should focus on most in terms of worship or other deeds?
There's nothing more important for you at that point more than remembrance of Allah. Just keep remembering Allah and don't forget Him for a moment. And because when death now comes, the time is to focus on the mercy of Allah and nothing else. That's why they say that fear of Allah is more important during your life. Hope is more important at the end of your life, so that you die with hope. Fear keeps you in check so that you don't transgress. But now it's over now. It's time for you to change homes. So die with believing in the mercy of Allah. Don't die counting on your good deeds. Don't even think about them. Don't think about them. All you think about Allah's mercy. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah said, "Ana inda dhanna abdi bi falyadhunna bima yasha." I am what my servant makes of me. So at this time, only make of him as the most merciful Lord, and that he's going to grant you his mercy.
Inshallah. Another question is, can the dreams from our istikhara help us decide what steps we need to take to charge towards a decision or a mission?
Yeah, that's what it is about. It is a way of consulting God about a project you're about to embark on. So you by doing istikhara, you're asking God, you're consulting with Him. It's a kind of it's a form of a shura, mashura. La khaba man istakhara, wala nadma man istashara. You will not be disappointed if you make istikhara. You will not regret if you make istishara, which is to consult, to get the opinion of other people, especially people of knowledge and understanding. So if you consult with Allah and Allah gives you an answer, it's binding on you. Otherwise, your iman is flawed. If you go and say, okay, you make istikhara that I want to, let's say, I want to go to show me a good partner, somebody to marry, and God shows you somebody, and then you change your mind, then you have definitely breached your iman. Yeah. So once you consult Him, you must accept the decision.
Okay, inshallah. And I think probably our final question will come from Brother Wali. So, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I wanted to ask you, after the one who's concerned, what should be our plan of action after hearing this lecture that you've given us today? What are the steps that we should take going forward?
Exactly. So first of all, I advise everyone to write these 5 things and put it in front of your car or in front of your door, where you can see it day in, day out. That's my first advice. So that you have it reminds you every day of what it takes you to succeed. Keep them, memorize it, but keep it written in front of you as well. That's what I advise everybody. Rehearse it, remember it every day. It will help you, take the necessary steps to make a change in your life before it's too late, before certainty comes to you. Definitely, of course, the first thing is look into your life and try to trim it down. Put your life together. Don't have it scattered. It doesn't help you have a peaceful heart. That's the first thing. You need to have a peaceful heart to be able to worship God and to be able to think out things that you need to do in this life to have a good life. So don't be scattered. That's what the first thing is about. Fitna to nafs. When you are scattered, don't do too many things, too many responsibilities. Just narrow it down to as few as possible. So you start with that. So trim your life. Cut out too many unnecessary growth, and inshallah ta'ala focus your life, center your life. Those who are focused and centered are always successful. So start with that, and inshallah walk your way slowly through the rest.
Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallah. Yakumullah.
Inshallah, Jazakallah khair, Imam. And again, I want to remind everybody that these 5 things are found in Surah Al-Hadid, verse 14. So inshallah, that's a good reference point for us to go back to, and of course to go back to the lecture, which I believe is being recorded. Inshallah, should be on the MCGP YouTube soon. So with that, inshallah, I'll ask Brother Tahir if he has any closing remarks.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakumullah khair, Imam. MashaAllah. I think it's more so timely before Ramadan to build a connection with Quran. MashaAllah. So I think it's a beautiful time that inshallah we'll announce the date of Imam's lecture inshallah next month. It'll be right before Ramadan in Shaban inshallah. And let's start. I'm reminding myself first that I think we can start building this relationship now intensely, so inshallah we can benefit inshallah Ramadan. With that, Jazakallah khair, Imam. Remember us with the du'as. May Allah reward you and your family, inshallah, and keep us in dua.
Barakallah, always.
On behalf of MCGP, I thank all the participants. Inshallah, this is a beautiful program. Alhamdulillah, we see people looking forward to this, inshallah, and we will benefit more. In addition to that, I think Imam, I'll mention that, as you all know, Imam is working on the commentary of the Quran, which is under the Masima publication. There are 2 surahs have been translated. I think in a month or so we'll mention about that on Masina website, inshallah, and share with all of you, inshallah, to benefit. There'll be a booklet coming out soon, so we can share. There'll be in-depth study and commentary of Quran and Surah Yasin and Surah Luqman, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallah.
Thank you, Imam. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Zakaria.
Jazakallah. Thank you again.
Thank
See you
you.
again. Take
Stay
care.
well.
Assalamu
Stay away from the virus, coronavirus.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
alaikum.
Keep us in your prayers, okay? The whole of MCGP and the community, inshallah.
Ameen.
And inshallah, hopefully we'll see you here soon at MCGP.
I'm looking forward. I miss all of you badly.
Inshallah. As soon